For about 40 years, we've told ourselves the same story. The government told Americans to cut the fat, reduce the fat, go low fat. We listened, we swapped fat for carbohydrates, and then we got fatter than any nation in history. It's a clean story. It has a villain, a mistake, and a lesson. And you can hear some version of it on almost any podcast and almost any bestseller from almost any doctor with a microphone. But there's just one problem with it. According to the government's own data, the USDA's and the CDC's, one link in that chain is missing. We were told to cut the fat. That part's true. Things got worse. Also true. The part in the middle, the part where we listened to the advice and then tried to eat low fat, that's the part that never happened. And it's important because that's a big part of the story against low fat, that it didn't work. Because no one ever went low fat. Before we look at a single chart, I want to give you the whole argument in about 10 seconds because I think everything will click into place. Imagine one day you eat a pizza. It's 35% cheese. Then the next day you eat 2 pizzas and you go a little lighter on the cheese. So now it's only 33%, not 35%. So your cheese percentage went down. Did you eat less cheese? You ate 2 cheese pizzas. It doesn't matter if the fat percentage went down because you were told to lower the fat, but then you ate more cheese because you ate 2 cheese pizzas. Okay? That's it. That's the video. Everything from here is just showing you that this is precisely what happened when people were told to eat low fat. They ate more fat, not less. There's 2 ways to measure a nation and what they're eating. There are 2 complementary and different ways to measure what a country eats, and people mix them up constantly. The first is food availability data from the USDA's Economic Research Service. It starts with everything produced, imported, stocked, subtract out exports, subtract out spoilage, waste, loss, and so on. And what's left is an estimate of what actually got eaten per person per day in the country. It's a supply side measurement. Nobody has to remember what they ate. It's a formula to estimate that. The second method to estimate food intake is called Dietary Recall Surveys, NHANES, run by the CDC. Real people interviewed about what they ate. And this is demand side. It has a well-documented problem. People underreport. And badly, especially people who are overweight. Neither estimation system is perfect. Availability data overstates the absolute amounts. Recall data understates them. But here's why it turns out none of that matters. When it comes to seeing whether the U.S. ever went low fat, they both point in the same direction. Let's start with the supply side. Between 1970 and 2010, the calories available to the average American each day rose from roughly 2,050 to roughly 2,500. That's an increase of about 450 calories. 450 calories every day for 40 years. Now, where did those extra calories come from? Not from meat. Meat, eggs, and nuts rose about 3%. Not from dairy. Dairy actually fell. Not from vegetables. Vegetables fell too. Fruit rose, but from such a small base that it barely registers. The single largest contributor by a wide margin was fats and oils, 346 calories a day in 1970, 575 calories by 2010. That's a 66% increase and roughly half the entire calorie surplus. In second place, flour and cereal products, 410 calories to 581. That's up 42%, mostly refined. And added sugars, third place, around 7% of the increase. Now, this doesn't mean sugar is fine. It doesn't mean refined flour is fine. It doesn't mean oil caused all of the obesity by itself. But it means one thing only, and that during the era when America was supposedly cutting fat and loading up on carbs instead, the fastest growing thing in the American food supply was fat. So how did anyone ever conclude that we cut fat, that we tried low-fat eating, when we were eating hundreds of more calories a day from fat than ever before? And it's because of one number, which wasn't the amount of fat we were eating. The CDC tracked American eating across 4 national surveys from the early 70s to the year 2000, and fat as a percentage of calories did fall. For men from 36.9% down to 32.8%. For women from 36.1% down to 32.8%. Saturated fat fell too, both sexes, meaningfully. So let me say plainly what a lot of people in this debate won't. On that measure, Americans moved the direction the guidelines had pointed. They ate a lower percentage of calories from fat. That's real. But look at the other line on this chart. Over that same period, total calories climbed about 170 a day for men and about 335 a day for women. And the actual amount of fat on the plate in grams, it didn't fall. It didn't go down. We didn't go low fat. And that's not my analysis. Here's how the CDC's own report describes the years 1971 to 1991. The decline in fat's percentage share was attributed to an increase in total calories consumed, while absolute fat intake in grams increased. So 2 pizzas, a little less cheese on each one to make them low fat, but the fat didn't ever shrink in the Western diet. The plate grew around it. Now, I want to show you the single most dramatic line in this entire data set, and it's the one almost nobody talks about: salad and cooking oils. In 1970, they supplied about 115 calories a day to the average American. By 2010, over 400 calories, more than triple. Soybean, corn, canola, safflower, olive, the liquid oils. Solid fats like shortening and lard eventually declined, partly because of the trans fat reckoning, but liquid oils didn't just take their place, they ran way past them and kept going. Take the most conservative reading of this series, and added fats and oils still rose more than any other category in the American food supply. And here's the part that matters. This wasn't Americans pouring cups of oil onto their vegetables. Oil is infrastructure. It's in the bread people buy, the crackers, the sauce, the frozen dinner. It's how processed food is made cheap, shelf-stable, and hard to stop eating. Nobody chose that. It was built into the food they were eating. Regarding the rest of the guidelines, everything so far has been about fat, but eat less fat was never the whole recommendation. It was one line in a much larger document. The dietary guidelines and the food pyramid that followed asked for more fruit, more vegetables, more whole grains, more beans, less added fat, less saturated fat. So set aside the fat question entirely for a second. Just ask, did any of the rest happen? Vegetables, no, they went down 4% over 40 years. Fruit, up about 20% off a base so small it amounted to just 15 calories a day. So fruit was never a big part of our diets. Beans, they never became a meaningful part of the American diet at any point in the period. Whole grains. The grain category grew enormously, but the growth was overwhelmingly refined. Junk food. Meanwhile, the 2 categories that grew the fastest were the 2 the guidelines specifically told us to cut back on. That's not a country that followed the advice to go low fat imperfectly. That's a country that went the other way on nearly every line item. Whatever this was, it wasn't the food pyramid. It wasn't Pritikin. It wasn't Ornish or McDougall or Esselstyn. You can think those physicians are right, or you can think that they're cranks. That's a separate argument. I'm not making it here. But what I'm saying is much narrower and I think harder to dispute. Whatever America ate for 40 years, it did not resemble any of them. It didn't resemble anything low fat. Now, if you've made it this far and you're still skeptical, I think I know what you're going to say in a minute here, because it's the strongest objection to everything that I've just shown you. It goes like this. Of course, America never hit the low-fat target. The guidelines are why. You tell a country that fat is poison, and the food industry reformulates everything. Fat-free cookies, low-fat yogurt loaded with sugar, snack packs with a health claim on the box. People eat freely because the label gave them permission. The advice didn't fail to reach anyone. It reached everyone, and this is what it produced. Food with more fat, but a lower percentage of fat on the label. And I think there's real truth in that. The low-fat label absolutely changed the food supply, and mostly not for the better. Anyone who lived through the 90s remembers eating a sleeve of, fat-free cookies without a flicker of guilt. But notice what that argument concedes. If the guidelines produced a nation eating more oil, more refined flour, and 500 more calories a day, then what got tested wasn't a low-fat diet. What got tested was marketing. And those are 2 different experiments. The advice to eat low-fat backfired, saying that, or saying the low-fat diet failed. They sound like the same thing, but they aren't. One is a claim about public health messaging, food industry incentives, and human psychology, and it's a serious claim worth arguing about. The other claim is about what happens to the human body that actually eats beans, oats, potatoes, and vegetables for 30 years. We have a lot of evidence about the first one. We never ran that experiment, not at a national scale, not once. What about sugar? Well, fair question. It deserves a straight answer. Sugar availability rose for most of the period, and then it peaked right around 1999 and began falling. But obesity kept climbing. Now, this doesn't prove that sugar is harmless. It just shows sugar consumption went down and people still kept getting fatter. Oil continued to rise while obesity rose. That's a correlation, and correlation isn't a cause. Sugar fell while obesity rose, also a correlation, also not proof of anything on its own. Neither line settles the question. What they do together is rule out the simplest version of both stories. It wasn't just sugar, it wasn't just oil, it wasn't just carbs, it wasn't just fat, it was more of nearly everything in more processed form at every hour of the day. None of this information tells you which food caused what. It tells you what was on the plate. What actually happened? Here's a chart. Heart disease death rate versus obesity rate, 1970 to present. Obesity rose, type 2 diabetes rose, those are real and they're bad. But heart disease deaths, age adjusted, did not rise. They fell dramatically over the same period. Well, statins, smoking cessation, emergency care, and bypass surgery probably deserve most of the credit, not the food supply. If I'm going to accuse other people of telling a selective story, I don't get to tell one myself. So here's the honest version of what happened between 1970 and 2010. America did not become a nation of oatmeal, beans, baked potatoes, and vegetables. America became a nation eating 500 more calories a day, most of them from refined flour and vegetable oil, most of that arriving through packaged and restaurant food that had been engineered to be eaten quickly and in quantity. And we called that a low-fat diet. Some people did because that's what it said on the box. But you were actually eating more fat than before when they told you to eat low-fat. So next time someone tells you the low-fat diet failed, I just ask them to slow down and say, which part of that did they mean? That America tried a low-fat diet? No. The evidence from the USDA foodability test, from the CDC dietary surveys from 40 years ago says that we never went low-fat. No one ever ran a trial to see if Americans were eating low fat and found that they were eating a ton of extra fat. That's what they would have found. But all the evidence the government produces showed that's just what happened. You can argue about the advice to eat lower fat, that it was wrong, you can say. You can argue it was oversimplified, or that it handed the food industry a marketing weapon, or that fat was never the right thing to target in the first place. Those are all real arguments, and I'd have that conversation any day. But the idea is that we tried eating low fat and it failed. No, that's not a real argument because it's wholly contradicted. So America never tried the low fat diet, which some people now say failed to work. And that's it. That's my whole point. I'm Jeff Nelson. I'll see you in the next one.